I'm Dominic, and when I met Ernie Greenwald, I wanted to help realize his dream to cycle across the USA.
I'm looking forward to seeing the country that I've lived in for 70-plus years and never really seen.
But Ernie's adventurous hopes were destroyed.
Looks like maybe the cancer has got the better of him.
Had every reason to believe we'd be able to do it.
I suppose in a way Ernie's left a legacy.
This is the story of how Ernie's impossible dream became possible for 10 strangers that could never make this journey alone.
I hadn't been on a bicycle in 10 years.
We're riding across the country and we're loving it and living it and sharing it.
This is the last long bike ride I'll ever have.
Everything is perfect right now. Everything.
By the time we reached Minneapolis, Minnesota, I'd been on the road for over 2 months and pedaled more than 2,500 miles with 5 different disabled companions. The 6th leg of the journey would last about a week. From Minneapolis, about 300 miles to Madison, Wisconsin. I questioned whether our next companion could stand up to the challenge.
Her name is Rachel. She's 31 years old. And she has cerebral palsy. She'll be the most disabled person we've had on the bike, but she communicates by way of a word board or an electronic device.
Hi, this is Rachel Swanson. I am 31 years old. I have cerebral palsy. I am nonverbal, but I am able to hear and understand perfectly. My cerebral palsy has impaired my ability to walk severely. I get around using either a walker or a wheelchair normally.
Rachel was the shortest companion to ride with us so far, and the big question was whether she could reach the bike's pedals.
Okay, that's it. So what we'd have to do is build up the pedals to make the whole bike, to make it a bit shorter here for her, because Rachel's legs aren't long enough to reach the end of it. Safety goggles.
Luckily, thanks to Rachel's friend Joan, whose house we were at, we had all the tools necessary to make something that might work for her.
We're gonna have to bump up the pedals a little bit and take a lot of links out of the chain. And hopefully this bike's going to work for us, but we're just about to find out. We can put the straps around later.
Yeah. Despite being almost totally non-verbal, Rachel was very expressive. And through noises or motions, she could often make herself understood.
And you'll like. I think we've proved that this is doable. Happy? Good.
And when Rachel really needed to communicate, that's when her word chart came in handy.
Could I
sleep
in
the car?
Yeah, sleep wherever you if you want to sleep in the car, you can sleep in the car.
It was pretty clear to me that Rachel was used to working around barriers to get things done. I learnt that first afternoon that achieving seemingly impossible goals is what she did on a regular basis.
As her ski instructor in adaptive skiing, I had the privilege of seeing her move from being a student in a sit-down ski, a bi-ski, to skiing under her own balance.
And it didn't stop at just skiing.
Once in 1995, I went on a trip to Colorado. There, with the help of some friends, I was able to do some mountain hiking. I only regret that I don't get more opportunities to do things like that.
All right.
We'll make it work. Cool.
All right.
Let's do this.
Let's do what they need to do.
Hey, give me a celebratory hug.
Having met Rachel and fixed the pedals to allow her to ride, all that remained was to have a last supper with our hosts in the Twin Cities, ensure the support crew were in high spirits, then pack the car the next morning and head into downtown Minneapolis to prepare for departure. leg from Minneapolis, Minnesota to Madison, Wisconsin, my new companion Rachel and I had the company of 2 other impaired riders on identical bicycles.
For the first time in the history of my bicycle journeys, we've got an entourage of identical bicycles cycling with us. It's going to be quite exciting. Let's see how long we all stick together, and I should imagine somewhere in the day we'll trail off and be left alone again.
If you can find your way to West River Road.
After figuring out the best way of escaping the city, we headed out in convoy. Rachel enjoying the experience of pedaling a bicycle for the very first time. For a while, our little bicycle troop stuck together. But in the afternoon, the band of well-wishers, not used to long-distance adventure yet, said their goodbyes as we left the Twin Cities behind us and struck out towards Wisconsin. But it only took a short first day to find out my pedal adaptations were not as good as I had thought. It was still difficult for Rachel to control her feet on such small platforms.
Okay, we found out that the pedals aren't working so good for Rachel. And I'm not sure we're going to make them that much better, but we're going to try our best to make a slightly more stable platform. It's day 2. Yesterday we only went 32 miles, or 35 miles or something. She seems to be enjoying it, but she's not really able to pedal, so since she really wants to, I want to try and make it as possible as possible. Not quite MacGyver, but I'm just aspiring to be MacGyver's apprentice. So all we can do is try and stabilize the whole thing and mean the entire foot dictates the motion of her legs, as opposed to just one little bit, which could go either way. Right, it's about time we got on the road. Rachel's been waiting patiently in the car. All this time I've been making the pedals outside the hardware store. We've got to prepare for this freezing, windy, blustery English weather. Let's do it.
Okay.
You pedal as best you can, Rachel. We'll just have a good time. I'll turn your music up a bit.
I hoped that the second version of the pedals would do the trick. If this adaptation didn't work, anyone that could help was now 50 miles away, back in St. Paul. But the new design seemed effective. Rachel was happy, and furthermore, she developed a keen interest in being filmed, never missing an opportunity to practice her royal wave. We discovered after a little while that it wasn't the camera Rachel had developed a bond with. It was the person behind it, Alonso.
Thank you.
In fact, that second day, she got comfortable enough with her new traveling companions to let us into a secret she had been keeping from us.
When we fixed the pedals the first time, Rachel evidently didn't want to tell us that they were no good, just in case she couldn't come on the trip. That's quite sweet. But they're much better now. Somehow our feat of timber engineering seems to have worked out, thanks to the hardware store. So her enthusiasm for this trip is kind of infectious. Despite the weather and despite being quite road weary, she's rubbing off on us, and it's fun.
Rachel made it pretty clear that she was really enjoying herself. Sadly, this leg was less than a week long.
I wish to trip
would not be as
Sure. Let's make the most of it. Let's make the most of it, all right?
She was not the only one who was enjoying this stretch. Any fears I may have had that she was too impaired to make the journey had disappeared. and we were getting even better at understanding each other while riding.
We gave we gave you a whistle, didn't we? But you can't blow it very well. So that won't work if Rachel's got a problem to draw my attention to it. But instead, you raise your hand like this. There you go.
To add icing to the cake, the English-feeling weather we had had vanished, and we cycled towards Wisconsin under blue skies.
Really nice weather now.
Cycling all day long makes you hungry, but Rachel was the first of any of my companions to have a bigger appetite than me.
I'm slightly scared that Rachel's going to eat all of our bits too.
On closer inspection of her word sheet, I realized that food was definitely at the top of her priority list.
So we're traveling along the banks of the Mississippi. So nice to have trees again. For ages on our journey, we just had deserts and fields and no big trees. It's really nice. We're nearly 2/3 of the way through this journey. We've done about 3,000 miles. We've only got about 10 miles till our campsite. Well, Rachel told me during lunch that you're very excited about camping, aren't you? We'll have a good campsite, I hope.
Before the journey began, Rachel was worried she might not be able to sleep in a tent. And having stayed in a motel for her first night on the road, this would be the moment of truth. As soon as Alonso laid out her mat, she collapsed into her sleeping quarters with unbounded enthusiasm.
I have a suspicion Rachel's going to sleep quite well after 50 miles and a fearsome game of 20 questions on the bicycle.
Do they sing? Yeah. Are they Madonna? No. Are they Celine Dion? Okay, definitely not.
After Rachel's preliminary nap, sandwiched between the railroad and the Mississippi, we settled down to an evening round the fire.
How are you enjoying your camping?
This is Rachel's first camping experience for ages, I think. Yeah, she's nodding her head. Busy eating steak at the moment.
With the help of her communication device, Rachel put some of her feelings into words.
So far, I have been on the bike for 2 full days. It has been so fun. Even though we aren't that far from Minneapolis, it feels like a new world.
Journey from Minneapolis, Minnesota to Madison, Wisconsin, dawned bright on the banks of the Mississippi. My suspicions about her sleeping well were confirmed that morning when we had to resort to deflating her mattress to wake her. It didn't take words for Rachel to make her reluctance to get up known to us. But with a little help, she got up and we rolled back out onto the road. After 2 days on the road with Rachel, it struck me that while on paper she should have been the most difficult companion to deal with, she was actually one of the easiest. It seemed like she was just happy to be with new friends in the outdoors. That day, as we pedaled in the sunshine southeast over the Mississippi, I had a similar feeling of togetherness.
We slept in the little park here last night. Rachel's still fast asleep. It's been pretty amazing having a non-verbal communicator with us. We've had to show a little bit of patience learning how to communicate with her word chart. But I guess she's probably had to show a little bit more patience with us, struggling to learn how to communicate with her. This is the last day. I'm quite sad that the time Rachel's had on the bike is so short, because she's great company. Her enthusiasm is infectious when we're on the bike. If she laughs, it just makes me want to laugh.
I think Rachel may have been sleeping on the bike. Were you sleeping on the bike?
She really wants to be here. Really wants to be here, even when it's raining, even when it's 5 o'clock near the end of the day and we're still not really very close to our goal. She wants to be with us. And I think for her, the companionship and being surrounded by people that take a little bit of time to listen to her and communicate with her is perhaps the most important thing. I'm gonna miss her when she goes. It seems like our companions just carry on getting more and more inspiring.
Rachel's fourth and last day was the longest. Passing telltale signs that we were approaching the heart of the Chi state, we pedaled on into the evening.
I'm absolutely done for the day, and we've still got 30 miles to go. And I think Rachel is probably slightly nonplussed that we've still got 30 miles to go too. I think she's expecting this to be a breeze.
But apart from the remaining distance, Rachel had everything she wanted. Chocolate and the company of Alonso.
Oh no.
Due to the unique design of the bicycle, my companion didn't have to pedal if they didn't want to. But Rachel, however tired she was, just kept on going until her last day was over. Days, Rachel, who suffers from cerebral palsy, successfully pedaled 300 miles from Minneapolis, Minnesota to Madison, Wisconsin. Without many opportunities to experience adventures, she had embraced every mile of the journey. Having arrived in Madison, it would have been wrong to part ways without sharing a taste of Wisconsin.
Apparently any visit to Wisconsin, and even more Madison, wouldn't quite be complete without a visit to the cheese shop.
It's a cheese head. Ready? Oh, there we go. Do you know what a cheese? Can you write on it? You want us to sign it?
After presenting Rachel with a memento of our journey together, it was sadly time for her to go home. Rachel's return journey wouldn't be on public transport. Thanks to friends who had agreed to pick her up, it would be in something a little more personalized.
Hi, kiddo. How you doing, honey? How are you? You have fun? You have a good time? You ready to sleep in your own bed?
The hardest thing about the ride was sitting in the seat for such a long time. But it was much better than not being able to experience all of the people and places along the way.
And I will. Okay, you keep in touch.
Yeah.
Although Rachel was unable to speak, she had taught me that sometimes words aren't necessary. Armed with a smile, a wave, and immeasurable enthusiasm, anything is possible.